This is just a brutal game. I mean, there's no forgiveness on the ocean. You know, eventually it's going to catch up to you. My name is Cliff Kent. I'm 59 years old. I've been a fisherman for over 50 years. I grew up fishing, surfing, and diving in Santa Barbara my whole life. My dad used to come pick me up at school, tell them that I was going to the doctor or whatever, and he would just plain take me fishing. So many a days that he'd do that. Me and my sister, we were big time swimmers. Did that till I was about 14 or 15. I didn't want to swim anymore. I wanted to spend all my time surfing and fishing. So got out of that, and here I am still doing it. We would take 6 months out of the year and be on top of the ocean and fish. And these other 6 months, when the price got right for sea urchins, we would be in the water diving. We usually get up around 5:36, have a cup of coffee, and we try to get down to the boat around 6 o'clock. Try to get out to our nets, within 30, 35 minutes. And depending on how the day goes, we're trying to get home by 10, 10:30. But that day, you just never know what's going to happen. It's like rolling the dice. You just never know. Fishing is it's in my blood. It was in my dad's blood. It was in my grandmother's blood. It's just, once it's in your blood, you want to just continue it. And now I have 6 daughters. Every one of them has been on the ocean. Some of them get seasick. But my first 3 daughters, they used to go fishing for a week at a time with me. That we actually lived in Catalina. We were on the boat so much. They grew up in the fishing community, and it's provided a lifestyle for me and has raised my kids at the same time. I always knew that fishing was going to be a part of me. There's highs and lows, but there came a time I never knew if I was going to ever fish again. In July of 2006, I had a couple buddies come up to me, Michael Caligiuri and Joesph Breck, asking me if they could go white sea bass fishing at nighttime with me. And I told them, no problem, just figure it out and we'll go. I knew Joe from basically surfing down at the pit, our local spot. It's Henry's Beach. Me and him used to hang out and surf quite a bit. I grew up with the Caligiuri brothers, and Michael was well known down at the harbor, knew a lot of the fishermen. He was a well-known sports fisherman. So I had just gotten a new boat. I think the boat was maybe a month and a half, maybe 2 months old to me. I had fished the coast maybe 7 or 8 times with it. Our plan was to go to Santa Cruz Island, maybe 20 miles away. We were all excited to go. It was my first trip to the islands on the new boat, Michael's first trip to the islands with me, and Joe hadn't been to the islands in quite some time. So I'd say we got done getting fuel and ice around 6, loaded some groceries, and off to the islands we went. So we got out of the harbor, I'd say no more than 2-3 miles outside the harbor. We ran into a really thick fog bank, which I didn't realize it was so low, which we have radar and stuff, so we weren't freaked out about the fog or anything. It was windy, maybe blowing 15 or 18 miles per hour, but thought nothing of it. Ended up getting about 3.5, 4 miles from the island. I told Michael and Joe, let's get ready to set the gear. And that's when Michael went out on the back deck and said, hey, the boat seems a little low. I went back to take a look, and the next thing I knew, we took a wind wave right over the stern and just drenched the boat. All that water that came on my deck had swallowed my boat. All I could see was water rushing into the fish hatch. I was in knee-high water within 15 seconds. Knowing that the water was rushing into my boat, knowing I couldn't get into my safety gear, I could not get to the radio to call for help, it was hard to think about what to do so fast. I turned around and told Michael, unsnap the buoy balls, because it was the only flotation we could get to.
All our life survival stuff was up in the bow. The water had just engulfed it. And I would say 30 seconds after that, we rolled over.
When we hit that water, the prop was still turning. What we saw was the boat completely sink. You're realizing that, hey man, this is a freaking life or death situation, and you can't believe it's going on.
I swam, grabbed the buoy balls, swam back to these guys. We talked about which way to go, and we all elected to say, let's swim to the island.
10 or 15 or 20 minutes into the swim, I started realizing that, hey, we got shorts on, Michael had his slickers on, and he was the most weighted down, and we told him to get rid of everything. And by the time he did, Joe looked over at me and said, hey, Michael's having problems. And I looked over at Michael, and he was foaming at the mouth.
He ended up drowning in front of me right there. We took the buoy ball, went up underneath the shirt, clipped him off, so at least somebody could find him. Because now we're panicky going, are we gonna be next? So me and Joe kept swimming. Joe was flipping out. Here's his best friend, our friend, you know, basically we're leaving him, he's drowned. I
mean, you know, your survival mode comes and tells you, hey, you gotta keep moving or else you're gonna be just like Michael. And so we did, we kept moving. We kept moving for another couple hours. Just came a certain point in time when Joe turned to me and said, I can't go on anymore. And he just didn't want to move. And I turned to him and told him, like, either you're gonna move with me or else you're gonna sit out here and be like Michael. And the bottom line is, there's only one way we're gonna get out of this, is to keep swimming. And I remember Joe crying and telling me, you know, don't leave me, don't leave me. And it's a really hard thing to do, but I was thinking of surviving.
I told him, hey, I'm gonna try to get to the island, and if I do, I'll try to find someone and come look for you.
I realized I'd hit the phosphorescence, and every movement of my body I could see, and that became very eerie to me because I have fished out there my whole life and know what's surrounding me.
It was just a wonder if you're going to make it. You know, I mean, you're thinking of your kids, you're thinking of what's going on. You're just, it's hard to imagine what's going on. Everything happens so fast. Everything that could have went wrong that night went wrong.
Within the next 20 or 30 minutes after that, I could hear the wind swell hitting the island. Then I realized I can't get onto the island. There's no way. It's the cliffside of the island.
I was in the water for another 35, 40 minutes. I was freezing. I finally found a place to get up. And then when you get up on the island, I realized what had happened, and you just, you know, you're breaking down.
You can't believe what's happening. You can't. It's like a dream, you know. And here comes sunrise, and realize, man, the only problem was the dream was real. I was grateful, obviously, to see that first light. I had already seen a boat go by, and I realized that I was in such a bad spot that unless I got in that water and swam around this point, I was never going to be seen, and I just did not want to get back in that water again.
There was nothing to do but climb the cliff. So I finally scaled the cliff, and I was about 80 or 90 feet up, and there was one little branch I had to rely on. I was thinking, man, they're going to find me down here dead on the rocks after I lived through this whole thing, you know? And that little branch held, thank God.
And that's when I saw the boat, the Peace. I saw him come tuck in towards me. And the weird thing is like, I could see the ball that I knew that Joe was on that ball. I just didn't know whether he was alive or not. I let them know that I had a buddy outside. I knew Michael had died, but the Peace went out there and came back in and said he had perished too. And from there on,
I finally just jumped off this huge cliff into the water. They had a skiff out already, jumped out, got on that boat, freaking out, and
I remember waking up the next morning, and then I came to a point in time where I realized that there was too much going on here, and I had to leave town and get some peace. So I went to my parents. They own a restaurant out in Arizona, and went out there to try to figure it all out.
as a friend, to lose a friend, the amount of blame that you have inside is very tough.
I blame myself because it was my watch. If it wasn't for Michael and Joe, I wouldn't be here.
This is just a brutal game. I mean, there's no forgiveness on the ocean. Going through something like that, it's amazing how you see how life can be taken from you at any second.
It took me about 5 or 6 months before I got my head together where I could come back. I ended up going urchin diving for the first 6 months, and I didn't like being in the water anymore. It brought back memories every time I hit the water. It's like riding a bike. You just get back on it or start pedaling, and here I am, still doing it. I was born a fisherman, and I'm more than likely going to die a fisherman. To see my daughters grow up, graduate, their high school or college, or being around your family and friends is everything. I think about Michael and Joe all the time. I think that they would have wanted me to continue living my life the way it is. I leave a part of them out there, and I think they know that. I live for them every day.